back with my friend Matt. Matt's getting ready to take a trip to Italy, where I just got back from. So I apologize. We haven't been on the air for a few weeks. I'll try to continue solo while Matt's in Italy. And we're waiting for Larry to jump on right now. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty. So we figured we would just make sure we activate the live so we don't miss you guys on LinkedIn. If you're in there, and just drop something in the chat so we can see you and we can say hi. And I don't know, what do you want to talk about while we wait, Matt?
I don't know. It's been a few weeks since we connected directly. You've come back. Are you a changed person at all, even incrementally?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I was, I was with my family for part of the trip, so for about half of it. And a lot of times when I'm with my family for more than, let's say, like a week at a time, things kind of like blow up at the end. We didn't have any blow ups, which was great. I think part of it is just me realizing like how my family, my sisters specifically, how they are, and being able to just let them be how they are and not let it bother me, and just like completely placate to them and just whatever. I don't care, So it's been good ever since I got that mentality.
So you learned some, patience.
I learned some patience. Yep. We got Larry here, so I'm gonna jump him in right now. Hey, Larry, thanks
Hey,
so much for coming on.
you bet. My pleasure.
Awesome. So I didn't give the audience much of a background. I was looking for your bio, but I didn't see it. So I don't know if you want to just start. I know you've got a lot of experience as a real estate broker, a developer. Maybe just start at the beginning. Tell us how you got into real estate to begin with, and then tell us what you're up to today.
Sure. I started in 1969 building recording studios and special event venues, and got into real estate then, understanding that build a suit was a big deal, and was becoming one back then. So I spent, I don't know, I started in my first deal I bought for myself was 1972. In 1978, I got licensed as a commercial real estate broker or agent in Silicon Valley. Worked with a group there that taught me how to do commercial real estate from the ground up. And so I specialize in land development, from horse poop to high rise, everything in between. Do a lot of technical installs, radio stations, TV stations, special purpose buildings, ingot growers, and those kinds of things. And just have really enjoyed it. Recently, I'm realizing the one thing that I couldn't do was raise money. I always had people that raised money for me, so for my projects, and most of them were partnerships. So just recently, I've run into a bunch of deals. I see a lot of deals that all make sense. I have to what I've recently understood just from Raise Master is you got to be able to really do the underwriting, which is something that I was not very familiar with, and I'm learning as quickly as I can. The rest of it for me is pretty simple. I haven't had to do a lot of email support or any of that. Typically, the people that come to me, they come to me with a problem to solve, and so that's been kind of the genesis of my career, and kind of what's carried me through. I'm really excited to be with Raise Masters, and just because of all that I'm learning, I never realized how much I didn't know. This is my 46th year in commercial real estate, and kind of here to learn and give any expertise or help that I can to those that are pursuing the same path. Plenty of opportunity. There's really no competition that I can see. There's lots to do, and there's really no reason to keep your secrets. If you share them between each other, you all are going to profit just fine in this coming market.
Yeah, it's a land of abundance, that's for sure. I had that mentality switch probably 15 years ago, and it's been a life changer for me. I'm curious, when you say you don't have much experience underwriting, I would have thought the opposite, being in the business for so long. But maybe it's just because you have such a good handle on the markets that you're operating in, that the values based on the historics and just based on kind of your gut feeling. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do is I follow markets very closely. The markets that I follow, for the most part, are within 600 miles of Reno, Nevada, and I grew up in California markets. I see a lot of other markets just based on some of my projects right now that have application in other markets across the country. And I can evaluate a piece of property for the sake of build to suit and we don't sell things; we hold them long term. So I can evaluate them to fit my plan. But what I'm seeing is the way that you guys look at projects from an underwriting standpoint is so much more variation than I've ever really focused on. So I have narrow focus on the projects that I do, and for the most part, I try to equate them to I want to buy things 20% less than the market will demand, and I want a pretty decent cap rate on that discounted price too to boot. So that's always worked for me, just based upon the number of projects that there are out there to do. The number's increasing. I probably look at 200 properties a day right now. So most of them get thrown out of the way, but I have specific things I'm looking for. So in that regard, underwriting is something new. I really do want to.
So you have tenants that come to you and say, "Hey, I want you to build me something, and I'm going to rent it from you."
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I'm at my home in Lake Tahoe, and we don't know what the what the internet does up here every once in a while. So if I fade out, I'll be back.
No, that's no problem. So I was just asking, you have tenants that just come to you directly and say, "I've got a need for space, and I know you're a developer. Why don't you build me something? You can own it, and I'll just lease it back from you."
I see that from time to time. Those are not the deals I do. Right now, the things I'm working on, I can give you the last deal that I did, is it's a manufacturing plant for modular construction. So it could be commercial or housing or whatever. And that project, the total funding for that was $150 million, of which 50 is the real estate. Typically a triple net lease. I'm not sure that I want to own it, but somebody will. And I get a lot of requests for things that I have a history of doing. Recording studios is something I've done a lot of. TV stations, those kinds of things. Those are not big calls. I'm working now on 4 projects, actually 5 projects in Nevada, the total of which is probably, I'm going to say, maybe 1,500 units of mixed use and multifamily. So I'm working right now on vertical mixed use. California needs a lot of that, and so these are all new projects to me. But I'm pretty seasoned at solving problems that I can figure them out pretty quick. So I guess if somebody wants to rent a building or do a build to suit for rent, I don't do brokerage anymore just because I don't like the consistency of it. You're always at the whim of somebody that makes a decision whether you're going to make your money or not. And I won't do that anymore. So unless it's a lock solid deal, I don't build a suit for anybody. Rather build to suit for partnerships. What I do best is find the land, and I can do all the entitlements. I've got a great engineering group, and so we're looking for architects that can do modular now. And I've seriously, you guys and your groups of investors are way more knowledgeable than I am about how to get the deal done. I know how to write the deal, but I'm seeing new terms and conditions in transactions I've never seen before in my entire career that you guys are creating. It's a wonderful environment.
Yeah.
So Larry, what is like the entitlement process in California for these projects? Because I always, visualize. I mean, obviously California has has affordable housing issues, for instance, but the entitlement process is very, very, is from what I hear, very difficult. Is that true?
Yeah, that started back in mid 80s, actually, when city councils and planning commissions really wanted to control the flow of deals. And I don't know why they did that. They basically created a false market for values. You know, the average price for a house in San Francisco Bay Area right now is somewhere between 12 and $1,600 a foot. You know, well,
Hmm.
shoot, I can build those for a whole lot less. And people think their land is worth that too as well. Recently, 5 years ago, the California state, the governor, issued a mandate that all municipalities and counties have to produce a certain amount of housing. So it used to be that you would own a piece of property, you could get 5 houses built on, and the planning commission would diddle daddle around with that and maybe let you do 3. And
Hmm.
now the state is coming in and say 5's not enough. We want to see 20. And so they're trying to grapple with the requirements of the state. But the state just recently issued as part of their intention to increase the number of living units in the state of California, fines for cities and counties that don't produce the approvals necessary to meet the 2030 mandate. So, and in fact, I was talking to John Lane. Everybody knows John Lane about one of his projects, and he said that he's working on was one house. He's adding 10 units to the same lot. They're all going to be what are they? I forget their additional units that can be lived in, and that's what the city wants, and they're intending to have that. So in Pleasanton, California, they've been doing that for 5 years. So a single family house lot, maybe 7 or 8,000 square feet, has one house on it. But now they're putting 4, 5 houses on that. They've dropped all of the parking requirements and those kinds of things. So, you know, it has been a problem in California, but I think, and it probably still is until all these municipalities understand they're going to have to go along with the need for housing needs to be fulfilled. So, and I'm seeing them change. They don't like the change, but it's a real opportunity for a lot of developers or builders or investors to get involved early in a marketplace. It should be pretty lucrative. So
Yeah.
I know in Livermore, California, they have a law passed that if you don't get your project produced fast enough, the developer builder can go in and get the permits no matter what that project is without approvals.
Hmm.
So we're going to start seeing a lot of pressure for new product. So
Yeah, that's
How's that?
interesting. That's definitely interesting because I mean, Governor Hochul, we're in New York State, Mark and I, and Governor Hochul, basically has a plan to produce 800,000 housing units over the next 10 years. And, a lot of people's concerns were, because there's a lot of NIMBYism everywhere across the country. But the main concern with policymakers was, is New York State going to get sued by local towns when people have an uproar about having a 10 unit apartment building built in their backyard, for instance, and the constitutionality of that. So I think this is an interesting case study to look at in terms of the state driving the and overriding those types of local municipalities in producing housing units in this crisis that we have.
yeah, I think you'll see in New York, I think you'll see the same path that has been developing in California for the last 5 years. You know, so other states don't have a problem with it. You know, Nevada has very little problem producing the housing that's needed. Although Reno right now is about 75,000 jobs that are looking for housing right now. And in the state of California, the last estimate was 1 million houses short. I don't
Hmm.
see any way possible, given the processes that they're going through. I don't care how fast you speed them up, that they can produce that before their mandate has a deadline. Part of the threat that I think you'll see in New York too, that you see right now in California, is the threat of fines. You know, at 10,000 to $1 million a month, cities and counties will start to sit up, pay attention, I think.
how is that going to affect the housing prices? Do you think they're just going to
Well,
keep
you
going up?
can't, well, no, I think actually we're at a spot right now where it looks to me like, and I'm not an expert at housing, but I rely on a bunch of experts. I'm seeing flat prices right now. They're pretty stable. There are some places that have some cities and areas of the country that have an excess of housing. I'm looking at prices in San Antonio, and I don't know how they can produce them at that price, but they are. You're looking at a 1,1400 square foot house for $230,000, brand new. And so it's possible. I think that the price of housing, I think, is flat in California. It's flat in Nevada. I'm seeing it be pretty flat across the country. I think people are concerned about, 7% interest rates. Well, my first home that I bought back in, it would have been let's see, that would have been 1972 or so. It was a 9.5% interest. I paid 25% for project money. So I don't think the interest rate is the issue. I think people, have a sense of comfort with the low interest rates. Well, I think you're going to have to, we're going to need to start living life in the real world, I think. And I think actually everybody's standing back right now. Real estate is one spot you should put your money because your dollar, I'm convinced your dollar is going to take a nosedive. And I think that's all going to happen in the next 4 to 14 months. So buy real estate. Geez, don't
Yeah.
not. I think you guys all understand how to do that with investment money.
Yeah. But if you're trying to buy at a discount and you think it's the window's so short, 4 to 14 months, are you going to be a little bit more aggressive and loosen your standards on acquisitions? Or are you still going to be pretty tight?
Well, there's a lot of transition properties right now. Retail, for instance, is going through a transition. You're gonna have to repurpose the property for the uses. A lot of the big boxes now are turning into warehouses, last mile warehouses. I think you're going to see the same with office buildings. I think office buildings, everybody thinks they can be converted to residential, and I don't see that. I don't know how you put the infrastructure in. Just imagine 30 floors of sewer and what kind of infrastructure you need to catch that on the first floor. And how do you do that? Well, I see there's a lot of opportunity. I see an awful lot of self-storage that's going wanting right now. If you just calculate the load value of a floor in an office building, that might be able to become that. So, and I think you got to be thinking a little bit differently than you've seen traditional real estate markets develop, the demand for them. I think there are new demands, and it's certainly a bunch of creative people out there trying to figure it out right now. So I think there's good opportunities in the market, but you're going to have to be a little bit adventurous and creative with what you're doing. I know the guy that started Public Storage way back in the mid '60s, and he started in Morgan Hill on a ranch somewhere that was failing. And from that turned into Public Storage that you see across the country. So, the cash value of storage is amazing given its income. And I think you're going to see a bunch of that come around. So markets will transition.
Yeah.
So philosophical question for you, a little switching gears here, Larry. The chicken or the egg, the deal or the money, right? What comes first? Because there's a lot of people who think that if you have a smoking hot real estate opportunity, that the money will just come to it. And then there's others that think that, no, you need to get the investor relationships lined up first and then go find the deals. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't had a lot of problem finding the money for the deals that I've been working on, but it is, it's for the most part, it's institutional money. And what I'm seeing right now is private investors are realizing that they can make the same margins as the big money, and they just need to team up and do that. So why I'm at Raise Masters is because I don't have a clue how to put together a fund of funds, but I'm seeing that you guys are all figuring that out. that I need to couple my ability to bring deals to the table. Certainly, I need to look a little closer at them as I have in the past, so that they actually fit the formulas that you guys are all looking at. But I don't see a problem finding the deals. I see that the issue is getting the money and doing it correctly. There's plenty of money that gets raised that's turns into a problem before you can close on the deal. I guess I'm kind of I guess I've seen so many deals that I think deals are easy to find. So, but money for me is tough to come by the way that I see you guys doing it. So my sense is maybe I team up with somebody, give up a big chunk of the deal just to learn how to get the money. So I don't know. The money seems plenty of it out there, but how you can qualify for it, the underwriting, and that qualifies that deal for the money. I think that's much more important than it's ever been. You can see banks right now. I think you're going to see commercial real estate loans on really great projects, cash flowing like crazy, but they have to refinance and they're not going to get the money that they want. Banks are pulling back. So where are they going to get that money? And I think you're going to see a lot of opportunities, foreclosures in fully leased buildings. Some of the logistics buildings around Reno and Northern California, I think you're going to see some opportunities there. So, and it's really about where the money comes from. So I would say money's the tough thing. Pay attention to that. Deals will come.
Very cool. You can go ahead, Matt.
Okay. So, Larry, I was wondering, in terms of your past life before Raise Masters, how you put together your deals from a capital stack standpoint, in the past, in your earlier days in your career.
Well, I had a skill and an ability. I was in the music business and I understood it pretty clearly. And we were all young thinkers, and I was with a small group of cutting edge musicians and producers who kind of figured out how to create a product that was cutting edge, that the industry wanted. And so the industry recognized that, and that's where the money came from. They would give us whatever we wanted in order to build the project. Same thing happened in Silicon Valley with ingot growers or circuit board manufacturers. Investors were there ready to go. That with venture capital that you see, the history of it is, now that it's come over the top, it started by bringing money to deals. And I think the structure of the deals has changed quite a bit. The money always made the rules. And I don't think that changes much. I think that what I saw in the past was money was pretty easy to come by, as long as you had the deal that would attract it and you had the right connections. Commercial brokers understood how to get that done, and the group that I was with required us all to do our own developments. So we understood the path from start to finish, but it was kind of, for me and my expertise, I was kind of blind to the deal that brought the money. So I guess, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does.
So what are you looking forward to over the next couple of years as far as projects, and what do you expect to take away from Raise Masters, and what's your goal? I guess your 2 5-year goal.
I think Raise Masters, I've only been actually signed up and participating for a little over 30 days. And what I see there is a network of a good close network, as long as everybody can, have some be civil with each other and not, undermine each other. And, I live on non-circumvention agreements that apparently you guys don't. That as long as you're not getting backstabbed, you guys have an ability to put the money together that will do almost any deal out there. I'm seeing capital raises of $25 million, $50 million, which is, that, and coming out of Raise Masters. And so I'd like to participate in that community somehow. And the value I can bring, I think, is to bring projects that are doable projects that hopefully to clean up the view of them through a lot of what I'm learning from you guys right now, so that you can quickly assess a project for its merit, wherever it is. And so, what I'm looking to do is, I don't think I will. It's a great network. I don't think I'll ever not be part of the network. I think I want to stick. The money spent is not even a fraction of its value, I think. So that's my goal, is to continue. I can't quit work. I'm 74 years old. I will never quit work. And it's about get it done. And so that's one of the biggest joys of my life, is completing projects. I hope to do a bunch of them with Raised Masters members.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say, do you have kids, grandkids? Are you teaching them
Yeah.
the ropes?
Yeah. Well, my two kids are, one of them is he's 40 years old in Los Angeles, and he builds high rises. And the
Cool.
other one is a tech guy who lives in Portland, Oregon, and is kind of cutting edge on some audio stuff. So, I don't know that I have much to teach them. I've been learning from them and all their friends. So, and I have 4 other stepchildren, all doing well, and just living as healthy as I can. Looking at that, that final window coming sometime soon, the next interface with new dimensions, I guess. So,
Well, I feel like somebody in your position has a wealth of knowledge to share with the younger generation. I know you might feel like, we grew up with computers and we're so tech savvy, and the marketing and the back end and blah, 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 blah. But really, I think there's a lot of wisdom that you guys carry that we would love if you pass the torch to us. And it might not seem that way
sure.
from some of my peers. They're a little cocky, in my opinion. But from my perspective, I really want to dig in and find out, what you've learned going through multiple cycles and multiple decades, and just being there and doing that.
Well, I read a book about 2 years ago. It's called Daring Greatly, and it was a book that was written by Brene Brown, and it's about being as vulnerable as you can be. And so I try to be as vulnerable. Anybody can take shots at me. What I've learned, the more vulnerable I am, the more that I can see how invulnerable or how protective or insecure those are that taking shots at me. So I invite people, come take shots at me, come and have fun. I'm an open book, and you can, at my age, you have to pay attention to those folks that are on the cutting edge, and for the most part, they're down 18, 19 to about 35 years old. And then after that, they're mature in their processes towards accomplishing the goals that they want to in their lives. And so I'm trying to just be an observer, keep up with. I still listen to the same music I bet your kids listen to that you won't. So, and I like to do a lot of the events, or attend a lot of the events that most of them go to. So I go to live concerts. Got one tonight, actually, I got to go to. So, it's about getting out there and living life the best you can. Don't quit moving.
Who are you going to go see tomorrow?
Today, well, it's Doobie Brothers. You may
Nice.
not have ever heard them, but
I've
it'll
heard
be
of the Doobie Brothers.
yeah, sure. So, well, those are some of the people I worked with back in the day. So that's old home week for me. But then we go take a look. We see a lot of the new talent around too as well. So trying to just keep up with it.
If you could talk to yourself when you were like 20, 25 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Should have, the one thing that I only realized recently is how important it is to be able to raise the money. If you can raise the money and don't be afraid to step into a project, whatever it is that you can conceive of, you can complete it. Some of them you're going to fail in. It's automatic. And you always learn from your failures. I've failed twice, and actually 5 times I've failed to some pretty large numbers, but you can't let that stop you. You have to just keep going.
Is there any advice you
healthy.
could give people to avoid making like the big costly mistakes? I know we all have made our fair share of mistakes. But if you could give some wisdom on, trying to avoid maybe the $100,000+ mistakes, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I used to think, let's get in trouble and we'll figure our way out. And since then, I want to figure our way out before we get in trouble. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of this is, again, we're back to that underwriting component that you guys teach a lot and that I'm learning from all you guys. That's where you limit your risk. It's, risk avoidance at all costs if you can.
Mhm.
But then don't be afraid to venture. Don't be afraid to take a chance because, those that don't take chances live a mediocre life.
Right. It's a fine line. You got to take a risk to get the reward, but when you're underwriting, you're saying, "Oh man, I can't take any of these risks." So I think the people that are most successful, they're good at underwriting, but then they're also good at having the foresight of what something can be in the future that might be a little bit different than what the underwriting is predicting, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. The one thing that I see right now in commercial real estate is just kind of a sub note is they all try to get in. All these guys, young guys get in and they try to retire within 5 years. The guys that taught me told me don't quit for at least 8 years so that you can see at least one market fail.
Mhm.
And so now I'm going on my sixth market, and I've seen them fail, and I doesn't make me immune to failure in the future, but it certainly does repeat itself in a lot of ways that I'm seeing now. That now are cautions or they're red flags that I never recognized before. So the longer you're in the industry, the more you'll see the red flags.
So what would you tell somebody that hasn't really been through a market cycle? Maybe they got in over the last 5 years, or maybe right after the last crash.
Yeah.
What would you tell them? If they're still being a little cocky and they might not know what's coming down the pipe.
Sure. Well, be humble. That's one. The other one is look at past markets because they're all documented. Probably better now than ever before. And you can always find enough documentary to kind of lead you through what happened in the markets. And the last one that's most memorable to me, I lost my ass in 2010, very big. And it was all the cause of 2008. And it was, we all got undermined. Everybody thought the banks were honest, and they didn't turn out to be. And you can find enough information. Be educated, read a lot, take chances, have fun, stay healthy.
Where do you think the most risk exposure is right now for people that might be participating?
Ignorance. Don't be ignorant. Yeah, I think if you take the first case study to be the underwriting or the proof of success, I think you need to look at 4 or 5 more. Take a look and see how the market fits. Know your market really well. I read Globe. Let's see, it's Globe Street News every day, and it tells me about the market across the country. And they are real estate writers. They're pretty unbiased. They aren't connected to brokerages or banks, and it's free. Tell you an awful lot about the commercial real estate market. Bigger Pockets is another one that I pay a lot of attention to. I don't do too much with residential, but just there's lots of current information. I think I got 8 or 10 emails this morning to pay attention to that all have anywhere from 2 to 20 properties to take a look at.
Wow.
So in all different classes, so there's a lot that you can see in the market just by paying attention.
So Larry, you had mentioned that you have the ability to look at 200 deals a day, and most of them wind up into the trash bin. What is that like? What is the criteria that you're looking for that is like your buy box for your deals that make you so picky?
Sure. Well, the ones that I really know about, the ones that say unpriced at the top, they're gone. If you can't tell me the price that you want to sell something for, you're not in the business. Get out of the way. And then some of them are, depending upon the market and how well you know the market, it's all fluff. I can see a piece of property. I'm seeing a lot of commercial properties that are priced $1 million an acre or more. When you run your numbers on it, there's no way you can't pay that amount of money for it. So a lot of that is just real quick thumbnail. Every once in a while, I see a good deal and I save that deal. And depending upon how long it's on the market, still is something that I can go back after. I think my list right now is about 20 or 25 properties that I think are, when I saw them, I thought they were good, and I'll go back and look for one in there that if I don't have something to do, I'm going to make an offer on one of them. So I think it's if you're not creative in retail, you maybe not should be there. If you're looking long-term for multifamily, you might want to pay attention to the supply and how much of it, what it's priced at right now, retail, what your renter paying. So, it all depends upon the property that you're looking at. And I go through the 200 properties. I probably see 100 of them in the first an hour. And then I will do the other 100. I'll pick up maybe 20 that I use Land Glide, $9, $10 a month. That'll tell you everything about a piece of property anywhere in the country. And that's on my cell phone. And I'm hooked up with some title insurance companies that will tell me what comps are when a deal closes. They ship them to me. They know what I'm after. So a bunch of shortcuts like that are the tools that I use get me through that 200 properties a day.
So why do you suppose, I mean, Mark's a real estate broker. I'm a real estate broker. I've never listed a property with an undisclosed price. Why do you suppose brokers do that?
Because it's priced too high. They have no confidence in the price. That's a one thing. Immediately, why would I want to talk to somebody who won't tell me what his price is? It's a waste of time. And I think good brokers, they know what properties are worth. And typically the ones that I see, most of what I see come from brokers who know what they're seeing in the marketplace. And I really depend on their eyes, to show me what a quality property is. Every once in a while, I have some of them, friends that will drop properties on me because they know what I'm looking for. About a third of them are unlisted. So I think there's a bounty of properties out there. Anybody, if you can contact the owner and you do it right, I'm just now learning from Jason Wright, I guess, how to do email. That if you do it right, you're gonna get answers from them that are pertinent to you making a decision quickly about buying it or whether or not it works or not, qualifying it for your list. So I don't know. There's a lot of. We all look like all this are brokers. I'm a broker in California and a broker agent in Nevada. We're all looked at like used car dealers.
Yeah.
Always got something to hide, and I think up front will bring you a pretty tight, loyal network.
Yeah. And what if your seller has this unrealistic price? You just put that up there anyway?
Yeah, I
Take the
don't work
listing.
on it. Sorry.
I just don't even
Sorry,
take it,
don't
yeah.
work on it. No. Go find somebody else. Don't have time for it. Really, the people that I work with expect me to bring them a product that it makes sense for them. And they want their margins no matter what. I know their margins, and so I'm not gonna deal with anything that isn't
Doesn't
priced
fit.
right, or they can't get through the terms and conditions of a reasonable deal.
Yeah, one of the things that one of my slick tricks is I always ask, like, when there's something that doesn't have a price on it, is I ask the broker, what's the pricing guidance on this?
Yeah.
And they'll tell me the number. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I think you're being gracious by asking them the question. I'm sorry, but when you get to my age, time is limited. And so don't waste my time. Tell me the truth. I give you 10, 15 seconds to blurt out a price. If you can't, I got to move on. So that's so gracious of you to ask them a question that kind of gives them an opportunity to break their silence. Sorry.
Yeah. The other one, Mark, is what are the whisper numbers?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's a fear in negotiation that you're going to lose an edge. And what I've realized is every property has a certain contract that has to be met. For instance, I'll tell you that any of my development projects, I don't close an escrow until I know building permits are available for me to pick up. And I'll close it once they're available, that I've been given that notice, I close 5 days after. Otherwise, you got to let me make your property worth what you're asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
So what you
hope
got,
that's
Matt?
not all. I hope
No.
that's not all too hardball for you guys.
No,
What are you guys working on?
you can go ahead, Matt.
Oh, would you ask, Larry? I'm sorry.
I said, what are you guys working on? What kind of
Uh,
projects are you working on?
So I'm actually, one of the only psychopaths out there looking to acquire office product.
Hmm.
But I think that the projects that we've acquired recently, our job, I guess the three of us and everybody else that's in the business of putting real estate investments together, marrying money with opportunity, is risk management, right?
Yep.
So, the deal that we closed on recently is I think that, is mostly New York State government tenants. We saw the investment community and the banking industry has sort of blackballed office as a product type. So we've seen some opportunities that have come that have a lot of the downside risks managed. So that's kind of the space I've been into. But now the banks have even been pulling back more, and I'm going to see that that's going to be the tail wagging the dog. So even us as operators, we've sort of pulled back and be like, okay, well, yeah, we were able to get maybe 70% loan to value on a stabilized office asset with high quality tenants, high quality building, good location, and now they're pulling back to 50% loan to value. So now we're like,
Sure.
okay, maybe we should pause back and see how this shakes out from a pricing standpoint, because we're able to acquire high quality assets at a 9%, 9.5% cap rate in our area that's in the office product category. But now that might even go up more from here.
Yeah, so comparatively, I'm seeing a lot of logistics, big warehouses that they have great cap rates. It got great returns, but they know they can't get a loan. So now what I'm seeing is an opportunity to buy at a discount. So, and the better the discount, the more likely I'm going to be able to bring a bunch of investors in and kind of bypass the bank. Bridge loans, you can't get yourself involved in any bridge loans at all right now. You're crazy if you do. Private money, I think it thinks more about where it goes. And I think if you can get your deal qualified in front of private money, I think you're going to be safer in the long run. And I think you're smart to do office buildings. There are 2 office buildings I'm really familiar with in San Francisco that they have gone back to the bank. Big owner, they've been handed over to the bank just because the social conditions around San Francisco create a total disinterest in their 2 buildings. Well, those buildings are going to get sold at 10 cents on the dollar. Bank can't carry them. If they carry them, they're going to show up on their balance sheet. That's 6 times money they can't loan out. So I think you're smart to be there. The ones I'd be looking at seriously, I think, is look at the load value on the floors, how they're built. Get an engineer to tell you how much load they can carry per square foot, and do self-storage. And if you can do housing, I think live work is a real smart thing to do, especially in the neighborhood where office buildings are. So I think you're smart for that. Good for you.
We'll see.
I'm working with an older gentleman he bought a property in Rochester. It's the only thing he owns here. He's got a lot of multifamily over in California, and he was kind of sold a bad bag of goods. And after he acquired it, it pretty much went vacant immediately. And he's just been struggling with it for years. And I'm nurturing the relationship. I hope we can come to terms on price. So that's a project that I've kind of got on my back burner. And I recently linked up with an older gentleman that's going to unwind his portfolio as well. So I'm just starting to get that one on the burner, and hopefully I can bring those to to a close sometime in the
Sure.
next year.
Smart moves. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a bunch of guys that were pretty seasoned and understood but the market sold them a bill of goods, and they bought something with great expectations, and getting broadside by COVID and by a crazy government. I think it's going to have its effect, and I don't see any reason not to take advantage of it. You might be surprised how low a price you can get things for now. And
Right.
it's really about the market surviving, not so much about a dumb investment that some seller made,
Yeah.
So, don't, I go to church every Sunday. I feel saved still,
Yeah.
I think I have to look at what's practical. And I think, if I could encourage anybody to do that, don't be afraid of I wished I'd taken advantage of the opportunity to buy things back in 2005 and 2006 at the
Mhm.
prices I could have had them for. So,
Yeah,
good
no,
job.
and my background is in multifamily acquisitions, and the reason why we made the pivot to office and other product types was because the bid ask spreads got so wide, and they're still
Sure.
so wide
Yep.
on multifamily that we just can't make the numbers work. And I see operators acquiring multifamily at numbers that just make no sense whatsoever. I'm like, okay, are they going to be able to weather the storm? Or is this thing going to come back on the market a few years later through a special servicer?
Right.
I think you'll see them. I think I have some that I've made offers on, they won't take my offer. Now that's worth less to me, that later on they'll be begging for an offer.
Right.
And I think that's the only way this market stabilizes. You can't continue just to pay unlimited rent rates for the rest of your life. You need to. It needs to be. Everything needs to be at a reasonable dollar. So,
Well, that's
yeah,
a great approach. I mean, if you're writing the offers now, knowing that they're probably not going to take them, you'll be the first person they call when they start to get desperate. They'll be like, "Hey,
sure,
remember Larry gave us that offer? Maybe we
yeah,
should dust that off." So that's a
sure.
good position to be in.
In California, it takes 120 days to foreclose on somebody and move them out. And so the history was you would approach somebody at the notice of default, on day 30, I guess, and you'd offer to buy that from them, and they were no, they're going to stick with it and stick with it. And then when the last 40 days show up, they have 10 days to recover that deal, somehow come out of it, at least without a ding on their credit. They don't take it, and the property goes back to the bank, and you end up buying it for 10 cents on the dollar from the bank. And a lot of people, just if they could see that and could be shown that, they would sell to you sooner, understanding that $10 might not be 20 that they invested, but
So yeah. Oh, we just lost Larry. Oh no. I was just going to ask him how we get those relationships with the banks to buy for 10 cents on the dollar. That's what I want.
Well, I mean, there's some deals that are locally that are in special servicing right now in receivership. And what I'm seeing a lot out there is that the banks are trying to get the assets stabilized in order to sell them. But I mean, it's a long drawn out process. There's some deals I probably talked to you about that are probably going to be in special servicing for a couple of years until until they're eventually auctioned. Because there's a sale mechanism as well. That's not like because remember when maybe you and I started in real estate. There was like I think it was called the Realty Track or something like that, where you could get this the super secret list of foreclosure properties that you could buy a subscription to, and so you get this list of properties that were, there were foreclosure lists, and you thought you could buy them directly from the bank, but not knowing that it had to go through the whole foreclosure process and go through the auction process. But typically the receiver is a management company that's going to manage the property, be very familiar with it, know where all the bodies are buried, and a lot of those management companies that operate as a receiver bid on the property once it goes for sale.
Yeah, but if it's upside down, then it's going to go back to the bank, which I think is going to be the case, moving forward in the next couple of years. I don't think anybody's going to want to pay the outstanding price. Even when you wipe 25% off the table, it's still probably marginal, right?
Yeah, the other avenue is actually Jack Krupe, who's a colleague of ours,
Mhm.
called me back several years ago about a property that was it was a 24 unit townhouse deal. NAI had the note for sale, the mortgage note for sale.
Mhm.
And Jack was bidding with his partner on the note. Some other guy ended up getting it, and then they ended up buying the note at an extreme discount, and then basically foreclosing on the property and taking title to it. So that's a kind of a back channel to actually buying the property right, because you're buying the note at a
Discount.
extreme discount to its face value.
Mhm.
Um, then that's a method to take ownership of property without it going through the auction process where it's upside down, and then it goes back to the bank, and then it goes REO, and then listed with a
Mhm.
broker and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good approach. I think that's probably what I'll focus on, moving forward. Try to buy the discounted note. And
Yeah,
you just work right with the banks, right? You go to their foreclosure department or whatever they call it.
I think that a great I went to this conference at the wrong time, but it was called TriGuild, TRIGILD. It's a distressed debt conference, and this was in San Diego. It was back, I think, in like 2016, 2017, and this was when multifamily was very, very healthy. There was no special servicers that came there. Okay. And none of the asset managers with these banks that came there because they didn't really have a lot to do. It was funny that all of the people that were there, the major industry people that were there were foreclosure attorneys and special servicing attorneys that were looking for work, essentially, because rents just kept going up and occupancy was really, really high. So I think that that might be a way to solidify some relationships. And I think that what's your unique value proposition as a fund manager, right? Is that if you're raising capital to purchase discounted notes that are distressed and do workouts on these notes, that might be a way into there. So then you're bypassing the bank. You're essentially buying the discounted notes with your investors' equity, and then either working them out or doing a deed in lieu foreclosure or whatever. I mean, a deed in lieu without having to go after the person personally, if you're buying it at a discount, might be a faster track to getting title to the property by providing that liquidity.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So Larry texted me. He said, sorry I lost you guys, but thanks for the time. So thanks, Larry, for coming on the show. Sorry, it was kind of a weird ending for you.
Hey, he's on Lake Tahoe, man. I mean, we should all. I'm so jealous. We're in freaking, we're in like, some weird smoky, Canadian wildfire shit. Like, I have, I heard that spending an hour outside or something like that yesterday was the equivalent of like smoking a pack of Marlboros. So
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling it because I spent some time outside yesterday, and my son in the morning, he was like, "Dad, it's terrible. You got to wear a mask. You can't go outside." And I was like, be fine. Now today I'm like totally paying for it. Like I can't feel my face. It's like, ugh.
But well, our colleague Bill Hamel here remembers Realty Track. I thought I was onto something really, really special, and I was like, oh, I could, and then I bought a subscription, and I was like, I can't, like, this was before like short sales became a thing. Like when okay, notice of default, you can contact the property owner and try to work out a short sale with them. Because this is when banks weren't doing short sales.
Right.
If you remember, like when the market started to crash, the banks were so overloaded with defaults, like they didn't even, have the manpower in place to do, to work out short sales. So a lot of these properties ended up going to,
Foreclosure.
the foreclosure process. Yeah.
Yeah. And then towards the end of it, a lot of them ended up getting like special, like sell it to a homeowner. Like you couldn't be an investor to buy them, which was kind of a shame. I
Mhm.
did get my fair share, but they were very tedious. Like they took, so I think the longest one I had took a year and a half to close, which is just ridiculous. So, like you're just calling like every week, like, hey, can we close? No, you can't close.
Mhm.
But then towards the end, I had some really, really sweet deals, and the bank just said, no, we're not doing it anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they ended up smartening up to it. I mean, because there was short sales that were happening that were like there was a property that was worth $100,000. Let's say the person owed $150,000 if you added all of their missed mortgage payments and penalties and interest and all that stuff. And there was investors that were able to buy them for like 40 grand.
Right. Yeah.
And there was appraisers that were kind of playing ball with that, right?
Right.
And but I had one deal, for instance, for a client that was this property was atrocious. It was like the unpaid principal balance on it was like $160,000, and I had a client that was like, I can't buy it for any more than $5,000. So I tried to work out the short sale. The bank thought that was preposterous. The property ended up going on the city's demolition list,
Jeez.
and ended up getting torn down after we walked away from it. So because it sat after we walked away from it for 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
afterwards, and it just got torn down. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like during the COVID, with the foreclosures that were on pause and everything, it seemed like a lot of these banks went in and stabilized the properties, which wasn't the case back in like 2009, 2010. I just remember them falling apart, and you were just like, God, I hope this thing closes, because like I should probably go over it and fix it if I'm actually going to close it. It's getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Where all the ones that we've done in the last 2 years since COVID ended have had like brand new roofs that were put on by either the bank or the company that was watching it for the bank, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately paid for by the bank, I'm sure.
Yeah. So are you selling anything right now out of your portfolio?
No, I'm a hodler. I'm just gonna stick with my guns. I know. I get a lot of advice like, oh, you should sell it before you got to spend all that money on CapEx, your roof, your windows, your remodels. But I'm looking at it for like long term, where I can just pass it in a trust. I can put it in a trust and then have my kids take it over later.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking like multi-generational.
Yeah. So when you become indigent and unable
Yeah.
to take care of yourself.
Yeah. They won't feel too bad having to take care of me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a 2-family that sold like right around the corner from my house. It was like listed for $299,900, and it was ended up selling for $452,000.
Yeah.
So that inspired me. So I had, I was, listening to Yona Weiss about the lazy 1031 exchange. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to sell one of my 2-family properties. We ended up selling it for 360,000. And by doing a cost segregation analysis on one of my larger buildings in that same year, we're able to pretty much wash out all of that, all the capital gains depreciation recapture, and be able to, put $200,000 of cash on our balance sheet tax free.
Nice.
Because that's a point in time where we are is, from a KP, for instance, the banks are looking more and more at our balance sheet. So it was easy for us to do $1 million deals, and now it's getting tougher and tougher from our own liquidity balance sheet to start doing, like, let's say $5 and $10 million deals. So I'm in the process of spinning off some of those smaller assets that might be advantageous for owner occupants, for instance, and then cost segging some of my larger properties in order to keep as much of that cash as possible. And I had to do it a 1031 exchange and have a gun against my head.
Yeah. Did you use Yona for your cost seg?
I haven't initiated it yet. So I'm just going through the process here. I had to get it done before the year end. I have a lot of time, so I'm waiting to get this thing, kind of over the finish line. As long as I do it in 2023, at some point in time, I'll be fine.
That's cool. Yeah, I should probably think strategically like that, but I haven't yet. So ask me next year. I'll probably have a different tune. I need some liquidity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, make hay while the sun is shining, right? So, if but it's like you can either do that or you can sell a property and purchase a property that's larger in the same year that needs a lot of, CapEx, for instance, like, Liberty Pole, for instance, and be able to bonus depreciate what you can on the capex on that project and be able to sell your properties without having to pay any capital gains on it. Because I think that right now we're just in a position right now where we're trying to strengthen our balance sheet as much as possible to position ourselves, and I think it's a great way for people like us that started in small, multifamily deals, and we've transitioned into larger deals to kind of transition out of that smaller stuff that is like really expensive to run into those larger deals in a tax efficient way.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I will sleep on that advice for sure and take it to heart.
Believe me, it's easier to buy than it is to sell. The decision-making process, it's not easy at all. So
I know every time I'm about to sell one, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it.
All right. Well,
yeah, we made it 302. So thanks to our listeners for jumping on, and we will be back next week with John Lane. So I'll get that marketing piece out, and everybody loves John. He's been a rock star in the group that I'm in. Very personable, knows everybody, and is just really kicking ass. So I think you'll enjoy meeting him.
Awesome. Hey, Mark, you want to meet in the green room real quick?
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Peace, everyone.